Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. You're very welcome to our preview show, and we're looking ahead to the first round of the Senior Football Championship. Joining me to do so is Peter Nugent, and we're going to discuss all the upcoming action coming across Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend. As usual, we're going to do it in the order that the games are going to be played in. So, to start with, we'll go to the Friday night game, and it's Greenmore against Pearse Oaks in Abbey Park at 7 o'clock. Peter, this game, I suppose it's very hard. I don't want to be too critical or too harsh of the Oaks, but their intermediate football next year, they've lost a raft of players from last year, like the old guard of Chris Rafferty, Jared Barton have sort of stepped away. Obviously, Shardy Clark has stepped away and he's the manager now. For this weekend, Ando Duffy and Steve McManus are suspended. James Freeman he's concentrating on boxing this year, so he's stepped away. There's a huge gap on that Pearse Oak team before you even start getting into the ins and outs of the championship game.
Yes, Sean. It's been no surprise really when you consider the personnel that they've had to do without this year, that they were going to struggle at that level. I suppose you have to feel for Shorty in the hand that he was dealt with. Really difficult league campaign. Seen them against the Grange in one of the last few league games, and in fairness, look, the Grange needed to win that night, but there was a fair bit between the teams on a quality level, you'd have to say, and it probably just looks like one of those occasions where the Oaks are just looking really the season to sort of come to an end so they can sort of get back into neutral, get reset, see who they have and who they don't have going forward, and try and rebuild from intermediate.
And Greenmore there, obviously, they'd be happy enough with the draw, I would assume, and going by the leagues. Greenmore are heavy favourites to win this, and when it comes to our predictions, I assume we're both going to go for Greenmore to make it through here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose, look, there is the derby element, I suppose. Greenmore, there's certainly never any love lost, never comes down to them playing any of their city counterparts in Pearse Oak or Harps, but Greenmore have had a lot of exposure at 1A over the last number of years. They did hang in, although I think they were maybe relegated this year, Sean. Just on the last day.
They stayed up this year.
They stayed up, yeah. They just stayed up on the last day. So look, resilient group, good management team, a lot of experience, like Jason O'Neill there, Ryan Rafferty, Brandon Boyle in midfield, like good seasoned players with lots of championship miles on the clock. So yeah, you'd be expecting Greenmore to put all their experience to use here and come through with a fair bit of spur.
Yeah, so we're both going for Greenmore in this one. Saturday then, it's Madden on Clevie. And Peter, just to warn you, we'll be careful what we say here about Madden. There's a few men very, very unhappy with you and mostly unhappy with me for what we said the last day. But
costed coming out of the Athletic last week.
So I'll make sure my face isn't up on the dressing room wall in Crossmaglen this Saturday, hopefully. But this is all the potentials of a really good game. Peter, the Madden obviously were in top shape the last day against the Grange. Probably felt that they didn't really get a glove lay on them. I know Ethan's hat trick made the scoreline a bit closer than the game actually was, but Madden come through it really well. Were really impressive. Clevie have sat back. They've watched that game, obviously. What would Clevie take from it? Obviously, me and Tommy were saying the high ball into the square is going to be an issue. Can we see Clevie expose that? Are they going to put, Paul Quinn, James Donnelly or somebody in on the edge of the square and try to expose that weakness?
You could see that. Clevie have no shortage of physically big men. Haven't seen them over the last number of years, and some of the personnel that you mentioned there. I mean, Keelan McConville at this level, when he plays a full forward, is extremely dangerous, and he's a physical presence. He can compete in the air, but also gives him that sort of dynamism as a really robust, good, agile ball winner up front. And I think if we sort of throw back to them last year in the quarter final against Cross, I mean, it was an even enough game, Sean. There wasn't a whole lot really separating the sides for long periods, and Clevie did get a run on them. And I think Cross scored a breakaway goal maybe. near the end, and it put maybe 5 or 6 points in it. But from what I can remember of that day, just Cleevy's wastefulness. Players up front sort of backing out of shots and then taking shots on that weren't really on, and just maybe like a lack of confidence or lack of belief in themselves in that final third. But if you strip it all back, the rest of their game's good. You know, defensively at the back, they're very secure. They'll usually play with numbers back. They're very secure in their shape, you know, and know what they're doing back there, and they've got good legs. Another strong league campaign. And I know Wayne's come in there, and it's his first year, and he's clearly hit the ground running with them. So the confidence and the mood in their camp will be really bouncing. But they're up against a very formidable opponent, and Modern really rubbed their noses in it, to be fair, with a very, very comprehensive win against Grange, and it flattered Grange hugely. Modern were just too slick, too organised, too quick, and when they had to put their foot down and get the scores, they got them. They played a very controlled style at times. Of course, they've got Niall Smith moving from deep in the field, who just gets stronger as the game goes on. Conor Grimley playing really good stuff in around the middle, and probably stepping in to fill the breach that Niall's not there to fulfill at the minute. And Ryan playing really, really, really good football, sensible, playing to his strengths, you know, competing, knocking the ball forward, and like Grange are just caught up in time and time again with that very deliberate long kick and the flick on. So Cleevy have had a great opportunity here to analyse Modern in the championship game, where you can't really hold anything back or hide anything, because if you do, you're jeopardising your participation the rest of the year. So you sort of have to go all out. I'm sure they've been able to see how Modern got great joy against Grange, and I'm sure they won't be caught out having been able to see that. You would have to say that both teams were really evenly matched throughout the course of that 1A campaign, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if, dare I say it, we're even looking potentially at a replay here.
Yeah, could happen, and I know that game's in Armagh TV with the Ballymacnabb and Cullyhanna game on at 5, so we're just
and
prepping.
Sean, I say that because I just think with Modern, like, they're not going to give anything up easy, ever, you know. And I still have slight reservations about Cleevy's killer instinct, and do they have the outright quality up front? I know they have the young lad King, I think, up front, who's a real potent threat. McNamee as well, and then boys have been really sort of, you know, cutting their teeth at this level now for a few years, and they seem to be growing in confidence. Sound at the back, but there's just something about what you see with Modern is what you get, and you know they will fight. There'll be no lost causes that will hang in the game if needs be, and they could probably play the game on their own terms as well. So it's going to be really intriguing.
I think, is it fair to say Modern can improve as well, Peter, because their forward line wasn't really at it against the Grange? I know Aaron McKenna, he maybe got 3 or 4 points, but he could have had 10. He had that much possession, and just didn't really bring a shooting boot to him. Kieran Rafferty's so much better than he's shown the last day. So is there potential for Modern to actually step it up and be better than they were?
Absolutely. I think really, you know, a lot of Modern's forwards were sort of playing in second gear throughout the game. McMullen as well up front has got gears and levels to go up as well. So, you know, I think Modern will be the better for the game. They've got that first championship game out of the way. They're settled into the competition. Cleevy will have first round jitters, and that just comes with the territory. And you know, Modern could exploit that, but I just think they're both really evenly matched. Cleevy potentially have more of an opportunity to exploit them at midfield, because they've obviously got Boylan and the other lad at the middle, and his name escapes me.
Callum O'Hare.
And them two lads are very formidable in around the middle. Like, they're physically big, cover ground well, move the ball forward when it's on, and there's big work rate. And Cleevy won't be found wanting for doing the hard yards, putting the tackle count in, and all around putting Madden under pressure. So I couldn't call it. I honestly couldn't. I don't think that maybe sounds like I'm lopping out of this one, but I'm definitely going to call it a draw at full time anyway.
Well, I'll go Madden just so I don't lose any more friends from Madden and lose a few from Clevie there maybe. So that's at 3 o'clock. 5 o'clock is Cullyhanna against Ballymacnab in the Athletic Grounds, the first of a double header. And as usual, Peter, I'm going to let you talk about this game. I don't have much to add. The one thing I would say is that this has the potential. There's so many good forwards on the field. There's two Grugans, Gav McParlin on Ballymacnab's end. Cullyhanna, you obviously have Jason Duffy and Aidan Nugent. But they're minus Ross McQuillan, who's suspended for this game. So that's a disappointment from their behalf. But you take it away. Give us your whatever you think's going to happen here.
You haven't even mentioned Chris Kier's threat yet there from 45.
Huge scoring threat.
Look, this looks like a straightforward one. And that's not to be, disrespectful to Cullyhanna, but their form line, there's probably going to be a kicking them to a degree here, but Cullyhanna they probably haven't been playing to the standards that their team of 4, 5, 6 years ago were setting, and there seems to be a bit of a decline set in there, which ultimately has resulted in them finishing in the bottom 3 in 1B. And be quite careful, you can't just say teams are relegated, because if they win senior championship, then they're not relegated. So they finished in the bottom 3, struggled to pick results up, and I was sort of thinking when they got their county players back that things would really dramatically improve for them, but it doesn't really seem to have improved that much if you're looking at their results. They still got undeniable quality in areas, and obviously with Aidan and Jason coming back in and spearheading their attack, it's going to improve it massively. But I just think that now they're just too well drilled. They're too well oiled at this stage. Been on the road a long time. There's great relationships built up in that team. Clonab aren't a young team. Like, they're far from it. They're, in my opinion, they're probably coming into their make or break year potentially. Maybe this year, next year, where it's going to have to happen. If not now, then when? And I know that this year they've left no stone unturned, and they've just had a really professional outlook and approach over the whole year. So on that basis, I just don't think they'll leave any stone unturned, and I think they'll come through this one. And if they get, obviously, Gavin and Rory, Jack, Ryan Waters, etc., moving well up front, then they should come through this one okay.
I'm just wondering on Cullyhanna, Peter, how big of an influence is Kieran McKeever? Because obviously he's a county standard coach, so you can imagine they're going to be very well drilled come Saturday night.
Well, it's funny actually. One of the best coaching performances I've seen on a football field came from Kieran McKeever last year in a league game against Grange. We were playing Cullyhanna and Grange, and we sort of needed to win to move forward and try and get promotion. And Cullyhanna were sort of fighting to stay up in 1B, and Kieran played that day as a sweeper. He did play as a sweeper, and it was just an unbelievable performance. He just touched the ball about 4 times, but he had every single player in Cullyhanna playing to his tune. He literally thought he was just sitting in the pocket pulling them like puppets. Just the players just knew where to run. He was calling kickouts. He was getting people to overload sides, and it was just a brilliant tactical on-field performance. So if he's able to do that when he's on the field, he'll certainly not be found wanting when he's on the sideline. So I wouldn't doubt that Kieran would have them well set up, or that he won't have something up his sleeve here. But just looking at the form guide of the Knob throughout the year, it's hard to look past them. Winning's a habit. It's a good habit to be in, and that's what they've done pretty relentlessly all year. So I don't see the wheels coming off at this stage anyway.
So that's 5 o'clock Saturday. 7 o'clock, Mahary and the Harps. And Peter, I'm not sure if you were on with me this time last year when we were talking about this game, but I remember I was certainly excited about this game, and I certainly built it up. but it failed to live up to its expectation, really. It was a poor... Now, weather conditions and everything else played their part, of course, but it didn't live up to expectations. And hopefully the same won't happen this year. You'd imagine the Harps are coming in, bouncing, full of confidence after winning the league. First time they won it in 31 years. And they're probably thinking a Mahari team without James Lavery, that's possibly just starting to be on the decline a wee bit. This is the time for the Harps to really push on and, show their intent, because they probably haven't lived up to their expectations in the championship since they won it in 2017. They haven't reached the semi-final since that. So is it time for them to sort of push through again?
I would think that Armagh Harps are very much believing that this year they can win the senior championship. I think they'll be very disappointed with how that game went last year against Mahari. They really didn't do themselves a whole lot of justice. And I think from an attacking point of view, they really misfired on that particular evening. We actually played them a few weeks back in a challenge game, and it was the first that I had actually seen them. Well, second time I'd seen them this year. I've seen them up close in the flesh, and to be fair, they sort of sat maybe 4 or 5 of their more renowned faces out, but I could only admire the pace and the sort of relentless energy that they played the game with in the first half especially. And I sort of came away thinking this team means business. And when you have that amount of sort of fringe players pushing that hard at this time of the year, it bodes well. Defensively, they look very sharp. They're aggressive. They're on the front foot. They're physical. The people that can go man to man, not overly reliant on, giving loads of bodies back to sort of look after them. They can hold their own court, and of course then they have a lot of athleticism, and they like to get up and down the field. And you've Joe McElroy, you've Daki McKenna, at the base of that, and you've Charlie Vernon as well, who has been moved about, I think, to different degrees. You don't know where he's really going to pop up. He could play at full forward, he could play at full back, he could be 6, he could be midfield, and I like the look of them at the minute. For Mahari, I know there's maybe a sense that they're going to the well again for sort of one last hurrah, and you just can't ever write Mahari off in that respect. They just, they've been down this road before, and they're obviously more dangerous the more people don't expect them to do it. They have finished the league well, 2 wins against Cross in the space of a week. Regardless of what the situation is, that will inject huge confidence into that group. Mahari get better when Aidan comes back. That's how their season goes every year. He's probably the player that has the single biggest impact on his club team when he comes back, because he lifts the standard right across the board, and the end players react to that, and they know that he's the main driver there. So their management was fresh in the start of the year, and I think it's fair to say that there was a bit of adaptation time there, and things maybe didn't get off in the best foot, but they grew into the season, and they probably felt hard done by in the end not to stay up. But that said, just having seen the Harps very recently up close and fresh, I like how they're moving, and I think they may just have enough to get over the line here. But you're talking toss of a coin territory.
I've been sort of thinking Mahari the whole time, and I've been just talking to a few people that have seen the Harps in a couple of games, and my mind's starting to tone a wee bit. On paper, I would say Harps maybe have the edge, but they're just maybe lacking that one forward. That now I know Tom O'Kane's an excellent forward, but he's probably on his own up there as their only real forward that's going to kick 4 or 5 points. Do they have somebody?
Look, Sean, you could say that, but I think maybe they might have a couple of younger lads coming through that could be about to catch fire if how they were kicking against us. Something to go away,
Well, they do. They have a couple of boys: Luke McKeever, James Walsh, Cathal all ex-county minors.
Yes. They're all very talented boys, and that's really where my optimism for the Harps is coming from. If I'm being honest here, it's because I think that they have the depth and I think they'll have a spread of people and players that they can bring in to really, improve them maybe within the game. And I think that can't be understated at this level, especially when you've maybe two of the top 4 or 5 teams in the competition meeting in the first round. It's going to be marginal. It'll probably be quite attritional.
Yeah.
If last year's game's anything to go by, you might see a lot of caginess in the opening exchanges. It may take a goal from somewhere, and we know that Mahri have formed for this. Like Brian Fox up front, there's always a goal in the game. That's how that works. So it's going to be interesting for the Harps on a mentality level. If Mahri do get their noses in front, how do they deal with that? Can they absorb that? Can they take the shock of conceding, maybe conceding majors, and still keep their head and still stay in the game and peg them back? So there's a lot of permutations here. It's one not to miss, and looking forward to it. But I just think Harps could nudge this, but there will be nothing in it.
Well, you convinced me. I'll go with the Harps as well, just to play it safe. Sunday then, it's Sarsfields and Drummondheath. This is in Pearse Óg at 1 o'clock, I think, Sunday morning. Peter's Drummondheath won the league last year, suffered relegation this year. I know injuries have definitely played their part. Aaron McKay with the county, just it didn't work out for them this year, while Sarsfields were in the hunt for promotion up until I think maybe the second last day in Division 1B. We know the forward quality that Sarsfields have, on when the way the two teams up, I would say Sarsfields just have the edge in terms of firepower.
Yeah, this is one that it's a great draw for both teams, Sean. It's a great draw for both teams. For Drummondheath have had the good level of success that they had in the league, and we'll call it sort of the COVID league, but they haven't really, let's call a spade a spade. Drummondheath haven't impacted the championship at senior levels from really the Aidan O'Rourke, Micheál O'Rourke, Martin O'Rourke team. Like they've been more or less off the grid of being a real force at senior championship level since. So this is a good draw for them. Playing Sarsfields, who only came up from intermediate last year, is potentially as good a draw as Drummondheath could have got. However, their own form line over the last year wouldn't inspire you, and it just to me looks like a team that are sort of running a bit low on energy or ideas. I know they won their last league game, but it was sort of, it was to no real effect. They were down anyway. But like we talked earlier, we said winning was a habit. Not winning is also a habit. It's not a good habit, and it can be hard to shake. Sarsfields have held their own this year in 1B. They are a flair side. They're capable of basically anything from the ridiculous to the sublime, and if they could find somewhere a little bit more in the middle and maybe not so much at either end of that scale, they'd probably be more at the higher end of 1B and probably would have been well in the shake up to go up. But they're inconsistent. They're inconsistent. They had some big wins and had some big defeats. And that probably comes down to like a dwindled playing resource as well. Sarsfields will probably have a strong 20 players, but outside that, you're probably starting to struggle. They're forward heavy, but they've got quality. They do have quality up front. They'll be glad that this game's not in the athletic grounds, because they just don't seem to be winning up there of late. And that will probably be, look, on a mentality basis for them, it's probably a good thing. It's probably a bit of a weight off their mind for this one, at least anyway. And they'll look at Drummondheath and they'll look at Drummondheath's form line, and they will have to be targeting us. And Sarsfields are a championship club. They do have pedigree, and I would think if they can feed the renowned forwards that they have in Toomey Jones and Thomas McAlinton, who's had an excellent year. He has looked an absolutely outstanding player at 1B level this year. If they can get enough ball to those players, which they will do, because that's what Sarsfields do. They don't waste time. They'll get it forward as quickly as they can. They can give Drummondheath their fill of it here. My only concern is, I'm sure Brendan Hughes is working hard to to remedy this, they do look a wee bit suspect at the back. And a lot of the time they play with little to no cover. And I would have question marks about whether they're actually good enough at the back to play that way. Which, if Drummond here good enough at the other end, they could be in business. But I'm just going to go slightly with Sarsfields here and going to back their forwards to get it done.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just think Sarsfields have the better forward line, and I'm not sure Drummond here the team to really test out that defence. And possibly we could see Legs McKenna on the edge of the square and a couple of goals and anything can happen, but I just think Sarsfields will have too much for that one. Then also on Sunday, 2:30 in Ballymacnab, it's Clondegale against Caircroppen. And if the league's anything to go by, Peter, this game is going to be very one-sided, but as we know, it doesn't often play out like that. The league results, you can't read into them too much. And Caircroppen, the last two intermediate winners, Clans and Caircroppen showed last year that they're a serious team with real potential, youth coming through and some experience still hanging through there. And the same with Clondegale, loads of experience and some youth coming through as well. So this could be an interesting one, but I assume we're both going to go for the Clans to get the job done.
We are. Look, we are. Barry Flynn's very astute coach, very astute manager, and he will have his bases covered here, and this will be. You'll see a different Caircroppen here in this game, Sean, than you would have seen in the league. I'd be pretty certain of that. Again, another club with a very proud championship tradition, and Barry won't be spurring the players with that kind of rhetoric this week. He'll be reminding them that Caircroppen are a proud club, and okay, this year hasn't went to plan in terms of retain their senior status, but they won the intermediate championship last year, and there is a form line there for that group of players that they can turn up, and like they shouldn't see this as like a shot at nothing. They should still, with their full team out, be very capable of giving Clonegale a very good game here. I think Woods on the ball, Kelly as well. Their strength around the middle, with Richard Keane there as well, and Matthews that usually plays at 6. They have a good spine. Blaine will be in nets, and he'll be pulling the strings, from there and making them tick and making sure they get a high retention on their kickouts, and he'll be contributing in play as well, obviously. That said, we've been talking about this for a while. The Clans are on the up, and they've got good depth. Underage levels going very well for them, and they're tipping in a couple extra players every year. You're probably seeing that now. The likes of Megan McConville's come in, Lennox Kamara's come in, and they're sort of established now in their senior side, and they're very competent young players. You add that in with Soup up front. Shane McParlin is probably getting better all the time for them in the middle of the field, and they're a strong side now. They are strong. You would say that on any day the Clans could have it with anyone in senior level, probably at this stage. They showed that last year with Cross. They give them their fill of it for right up to the end. So they'll be the better for that experience. They'll be the better for their campaign in 1B this year. They made right fist of it. They took it down to the last game or two for the promotion race, and they're getting better all the time. So I expect Caircroppen to be much more competitive here and to make a real game of this for a lot longer than they did in the league. But ultimately, I still think the Clans will have enough, and it'll probably be their depth off the bench that will probably see them home with somewhere between probably 4 and 7 points as well.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think Caircroppen will give a better account of themselves, and they are better than what some of the league results suggested. But Clans just to have too much on the day. 4:15 then in the Athletic Grounds, the first of a double header. This game's on TG4 on Sunday. Sorry, it's Crossmaglen and Silverbridge, and Peter, for the 4th year in a row, Silverbridge have drawn Crossmaglen, and I don't think there's a more unlucky team in the last 4 years. And every year it's just been one-sided. There was one year, I think the first year maybe up in Cullyhanna, Silverbridge gave them their fill of it, but just didn't have enough to really test them. Now, obviously, Ashton O'Neill's not going to be there. Don't know what the crack with Jamie Clark is. I think Newry City are playing Saturday, so he should be available. But you'd imagine that it's just Crossmaglen are going to be too strong for Silverbridge to cause an upset.
Sean, look, Silverbridge to me, they're a bit of an anomaly. Like, I really don't know what to make of them from one week to the next. Like, to me, they have the makings of a very good senior team. And they got run the championship last year, got the semi-final. Oh, okay, they were beat on the day, and they were beat convincingly enough. And they end up by Cross. And probably there is a level of mental damage has been inflicted on them by Cross now for the last 3 or 4 years, and there'll be a lot of work to do there, not so much physically, but with them lads to give them the belief that to make them believe that they can beat Crossmaglen, and not just be out on the same field as them and playing against them and making it a game for 40 minutes or 50 minutes, but to actually say we have the right to be able to win this game. I look at their league performances. They probably done the hard work in beating the Clans in the second last game, which left them with Grange to beat, who had secured safety in the last game and couldn't get the job done, to go up, and it was in their own hands. And that to me just leaves huge question marks over them. On the other hand, Cross have probably been slipping in under the radar this year to a degree that we're never in any danger going down out of 1A. Sort of, we're never in any danger really of trouble in winning the league, but that's not really their style anyway. Blooding a lot of young players. Every time you see their team sheet refreshed up on social media, it's just new names that seem to be appearing all the time. So there's been nearly a total regeneration on their team. And the likes of young O'Callaghan and Fitzpatrick now seem to be taking up central positions now, in around midfield and 11, and that seems to be now where they're building the base of their team off. Tony Kieran's retired, so Aaron is still playing, and he's obviously going to continue to give them great leadership from the back. James Morgan will be looking to back up a really good club campaign that he had last year, and indeed a really good campaign for Armagh as well this year. So Paul Hughes is committed full time to them this year, and when you start to rain the names off, you just start to remember the potential within their group and how good they can be. And there's bound to be an element of hurt stemming back to last year's final with Clonard, because I think when we break it all down, Clonard thoroughly deserved their win. But put yourself in Crossmaglen's shoes on that day, to be going into that last water break, I think it was 5 or 6 points up, to lose that game, I don't think you get over that quickly, because you have it, and then 15 minutes later it's taken from you and you can't get it back. And that, I'm sure, hurt that group of players immensely. And to lose 2 county finals in a row in that club, it just wouldn't sit too well, I'm sure. So I know that they're probably making a huge effort here to come back and really take this championship to anybody in their path. And I think a lot's been made out of the price that they are. Yeah. Really short odds, but it's Crossmaglen. They do have the most quality on paper, and they have a point to prove, and that's why they're short odds. And they will come through this, and they'll probably come through it with somewhere in around 7-9 points to spare.
And just quickly, Peter, before we move on to the last game, I just want to ask you about Jamie Clark. Obviously, he's with Newry City now, and there's been a lot made of that. What do you see Cross doing with him, not only on Sunday, but as far as the go in this championship? Is he going to be an inside forward? Is he going to come out and play as a centre-half forward? Is he going to be an impact sub? Is he going to stay in with Cian McConville and 2-man full forward line? How do you see Cross best using him?
Well, I think he's been back now, Sean, like a while. Like, I don't think he didn't just parachute in last week. Like, so I think he's got his feet well under the table at this stage. He got a lot of league football played there, and he'll be feeling good to go now. We don't know what his soccer commitments, if that's going to directly impact his playing time for Cross, or if he's deemed a starter or not. But I think if he's there and if he's committing, and you're wanting to progress and win games, I think you have to play him. But there is competition in that forward line, and the young lad Keelan Finnegan, has seen him playing McCrory Cup football, and he looks like a real live wire. And he had a good championship last year for Cross as well. He made some big impacts, and he will step up here. Cian McConville will continue to develop. Cian McConville probably on the lay of the land over the last 2 seasons now. Manfield football's been maybe the best forward consistently.
I would say so. Yeah.
He's been excellent, and then you've Rain. He needs no introduction. So there's just seems to be immense competition there in that forward line for places. And that's just us having a broad sweeping conversation about it. So I do see Clark playing. Probably see him now coming in could give them the option of potentially playing Rain at 14 if he could pick up the 11 jersey and just let him play, let him drift, find pockets, get on the ball, take men on. He can apply finishes. Don't know if he'll be unbelievable at going the other way, but it's like anything else. You have a man of that quality, you're quite happy to see him at one end of the field and do his thing. So I do think he will play. I think they'll not waste any time getting him in. And it's what the young players there too, Sean, can learn from him. Yeah. Seen Stephen Morse talking about him in the Irish News, and basically saying that he's been a real breath of fresh air, and that the young lads are nearly in awe of him, so it can only be a good thing, I would say.
Yeah, Cross to come through on Sunday evening as well. The last one, Peter, Sunday at 6 o'clock in the Athletic Grounds, it's Mullabone against Clonerne. And Clonerne obviously down TK due to suspension. Conor Bale has stepped away this year. There's going to be a hole in that midfield, and probably if Cormac Smith is available, I'm not sure what his availability is. He didn't play in the league. Owen McDonald only played, I think he played against us, was his only game in the last game of the league. Is that something Mullabone will try to exploit, that gap in the middle of the field? It's probably going to be Henderson and Conor McConville, I would imagine, for Clonerne.
Yeah, you could see, look, in my opinion, Sean, Barry McCambridge's best position is probably midfield, and it's probably him playing midfield as an attacking weapon. His surge and runs and ability to carry the ball, take the game to the opposition and play like a linchpin beside him, somebody that can hold and sort of, just let Barry go and do his thing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Barry. And Barry's had a summer away in America, and he's a player of absolute quality. And he showed that last year in the Armagh Championship. He had some massive moments. As I said, his ability to commit teams and go right for their throat is going to be huge to Clonern's chances. Turbo will be back as well, which is going to give them another serious, much needed boost. If you're listening to anybody in Clonerne, they're saying that Jack Conlon's really kicked on and is becoming that sort of marquee style forward to supplement Turbo as well. So that's going to give them good balance. You look through their team, look, quality nearly in every lane. Sean Shea, who'll probably occupy at 3 or 6. You have Dan McCarthy, who basically can play more or less anywhere throughout the middle 8. And I think Sean McCarthy's maybe suspended for this one.
Not
I
sure.
think Tommy said that. Yeah, maybe.
Oh, I think he did. Yeah, he got sent off against Derry Gunley. Yeah.
So he'll be a loss, and as Tommy pointed out, Sean, Sean's the man for all seasons, and he's really the man of the sand to look after certain problems. So Sean will be a loss to them. And Mullabone, Mullabone to Peter McDonald are not to be sniffed up. Peter knows what he's doing. Very astute. He will definitely have a plan. He will have Clonerne well looked at, and he will have a lot of forensic, detailed analysis carried out in Clonerne. I can assure you that. I suppose it's whether he has the on-field generals that can carry that out for him. But I think Mullabone are on the right track. They have a very good under-19 team by all accounts. I think who won the under-19 league there last week. And there seems to be a raft of young players looking to come through and play for them. I know they brought a new addition in their half back line, the young lad O'Brien, who we're hearing great reports about as well. Up front, it is what you see in the tin. Like, you know, Eddie English has been doing it in club football in Armagh now for about 10 years. Shelly is an able deputy there as well. Kieran Grant's still playing, very smart player. Drops off into pockets and give him time and space, and he can pick you apart. And obviously then Cormac Smith can dominate. He can have it over anyone on his day. He's a serious operator in the middle of the field, big, powerful man, unbelievable hands. Like, he's a grade one fetcher of a ball in this quality at the moment. And Owen McDonald's capable of having big say at this level of football. Big say, but he's a little bit erratic. And some days he's in it, some days he's not, some days he gets sent off. For Mullabon to be in this and to stay with Clonairon and the pace of Clonairon are capable of playing this game at, they need Owen McDonald on the field and on the field for the entirety of the game. All things being equal, Clonairon probably will nudge us, but I don't think it's going to be clear cut. I don't think it's going to be a procession. I think Mullabon will definitely be in this game well into the second half. But you're just giving Clonairon a nod on knowing that they have the quality, knowing that they have the people at the top end of the field that can hit the net, score goals all through the championship last year. TK will be a loss, but for this one, you're just thinking they can still shade it and maybe build themselves a wee bit of a run there.
Yeah, I think they'll have enough. I think just based on pace alone, I think Clonairon will get through this one, but as you suggesting there, it won't be a landslide. They'll certainly be tested. Peter, that's all we have time for. That's all the games coming up, all 8 coming up this weekend, and I think 7 of them are going to be hopefully live on Armagh TV if everything goes to plan. We'll obviously be covering all the games, previews, our few articles coming out about a one to watch on our favourites, contenders and outsiders for the championship as well. So keep an eye on all our social media for them. Make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, on Spotify, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if that's where you get your podcast. Peter, thanks for coming on. Look forward to hearing again from you next week.
Thanks, Sean.